where should we start? First off, the IPL, what do we now? We're a weekend. Obviously, there's been some high scoring. There's been some six hitting. There's been some pretty poor bowling displays, or rather, bowling averages. I want to start off this week's show by talking about Jofra Archer. So Jofra came back into the England setup just before Christmas, didn't he, in the white ball stuff. And he's spent, as we all know, quite a spell on the sidelines, his elbow injuries. And we haven't really seen the best of him for a number of years. Haven't seen him in red ball cricket for, 5 years? He has played IPL, and he has come in and out on occasion for England in that time. But after his introduction back for England, there was, I'd say, a couple of whispers. Would you say that was fair? A few people watched his return, and nobody is going on air to talk about it or write about it, but there was a feeling that maybe he hadn't come back quite as strongly as maybe people had hoped. And then, of course, England embarked on a pretty poor Champions Trophy, T20 World Cup as well, and then rocks up, first match of the IPL, and he gets absolutely hammered. Not the first, not the last, to have that done to them. So where are we? Do those whispers surrounding Jofra Archer and his return to international cricket, and also, the IPL, have now become louder? People are writing about it now. There is a fear that possibly the injuries that have afflicted him over the last few years might have taken something away from his game that might not come back. But as a former fast bowler, and as someone, Jarrod, who watches a lot of IPL cricket and a lot of white ball cricket, where are we now with Jofra?
So I want to ask Harmy a couple of things. So the first one is that we know he had a hyperextension on his arm, right? And where is the injury?
It's in his arm, right?
Right in the middle of that hyperextension, because it's the elbow that hyperextends, right? So if he can no longer hyperextend his arm, he's lost a percentage off his best bowling. I think we can agree with that, right?
Yeah.
That might come back, but at the moment, that's it. The other thing is that there are two kinds of players who get injuries in their elbows, or two kinds of bowlers, very fast bowlers and off spinners. The second great delivery he had was the off-cutters and the slower balls, right? If he can't get the revolutions that he used to get on the ball, and that is also elevated. And you watch his slower balls now, I'm not as worried about him at high pace, because there's a couple of times he bowled against India, I was like, ooh, he's bowling okay here. The minute he has to bowl slower balls now, it just looks like nothing happens. They just fizzle out of his hand. And he used to have 3 slower balls. He used to bowl the knuckleball occasionally, the back of the hand slow ball, but he wasn't good at them. But he was just using those as a variation for the cutter, right? The cutter now, all due respect to the great man Steve Harmison, he looks a little bit like your slower ball, where I'm just a little bit like, other than Michael Clark, there's no one in the world that can't play this slower ball, right? And that means he's got nothing else to go back to. And he also maybe has, 2 or 3 miles an hour just back from where he was. And it looks like he's lost that snap off his wrist as well. And I don't know if that's to do with the elbow. But that's my question to you. If he's lost, let's say, 2 miles per hour off his high-end pace, if he can't get the rotation he used to on his cutter and he doesn't get the same snap, he was a bounce bowler who bowled really fast, who had a great off-cutter. Those are his 3 main tools that all seem to be nullified by one injury.
Yeah, nullified by one injury, nullified by a long time out. I think what you're both saying are valid points. Am I worried about Jofra Archer in an England shirt? No. I think I look at his pace. And the reason why I say no is because he's been out for so long. I think there's a little bit of confidence dented by coming back into white ball cricket. The problem you've got with somebody like Jofra is everybody wants him because he's that good. I think
You mean batters want him? They want his badge?
Well, no.
Or every team
wants him.
Yeah. Right.
So the hardest part I've said this many times to me and Manners, many times on following on. The ideal preparation would be to gradually come through a couple of games for Horsham, a game in the Sussex, 2 or 3 games in the Sussex second team, find his way through, 2 or 3 first-class games in the second division, and he finds his way into a rhythm of snap, a rhythm of pace, of swinging it, pitching it up, confidence. He's been out for so long, we bring him back into an environment where everybody just wants to whack him out of the park. And I think because of that, I think his confidence. Bowling is about feel. Bowling is very much about confidence. I looked at Joff in the Wankhede when he got belted in the T20 game when India belted him, and even I didn't see all of it the other day when he got hit for 76, but I seen some of it. I thought he bowled about 2 or 3 bad balls. He bowled a full toss at the end of the first over.
The head high full toss.
Head high full toss, which then that's a knock on effect. All these are a little bit crisis confidence. I'm not worried about him in an England shirt, because by the time he comes back from the IPL, he's got overs under his belt. When he comes into the England shirt, he comes in as a white shirt, not a red, with a red ball, not a white ball, and he comes in, and I think he'd be allowed some rhythm. So I don't think we'll see the best of Jofra Archer until halfway through the summer, because once he starts putting overs under his belt, getting himself together, getting the ball to swing away, coming back in, I think the crisis of confidence, of execution, of ripping down a side of it, or
you don't think it's the elbow?
I think it's a bit of
You
everything.
see what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, and I think you're right. I think you're 100% right.
But you think he will work through that?
I think at this moment in time, I think he might be a little bit apprehensive, and I think the reason why, I think the anxiety with Jofra of trying to get with the elbow and having the injury, can I do it? Can I do it on a consistent basis? Can I rip down the side of it?
Yeah.
Am I going to hurt it?
Yeah.
All this, while somebody 22 yards away is trying to hit him 360 degrees around a stadium which has got 65,000 people, and it's red hot, and he's in the IPL or he's in the Champions Trophy.
And he played against India before that as well.
That
That was the same guys coming at him. So I could get all that.
The crisis, I think there might be a little bit of a confidence issue with Jofra.
This is interesting because you are a proper fast bowler, and I know he's a slightly different kind of fast bowler, but you look at Anrik Nortje went through this. Anrik Nortje was the best bowler in the IPL basically one year, and then the next year was going at 12.
He got found out because he didn't have a slow ball. Proper slow ball.
But then but what we're seeing with Anrik Nortje, then Lockie Ferguson went through this as well. If you're bowling at 90 miles an hour, these kids don't seem as afraid of 90 miles an hour as they used to be.
Especially if they're straight up and down.
So if you get to 94, 95, you step back up. The minute Lockie Ferguson and Anrik Nortje have just got that little bit slower, and they're not quite the same kind of bowler as Jofra. They're a little bit less skillful and everything else.
What have them two bowlers had? In recent times, what have they had?
They've had injuries.
Big injuries.
Yeah,
so
that's what I mean.
The bowler comes back.
So that's what I'm basically what I'm asking you is we rush these fast bowlers back in, and they're not ready and they're not confident, and quite often they are playing in major games. Like I think Anrik Nortje has made 2 comebacks for the IPL, and Lockie made a big comeback for an IPL tournament at one stage as well. So we're rushing them back in, trying to get them back in, and they're 2 or 3% down. I think when the IPL started, if you were a 90-mile-an-hour bowler and you were 2 or 3% down, you were probably okay, because there's a lot of young kids out there going, oh my God, how do I face this? Those young Indian kids now, they get those throwdown bowlers, just ping the ball at them. They're not afraid, and they're used to facing those bowlers. So I think now you almost have to be at your peak pace. And I think that is probably what Jofra is just not at.
And to sort of go on to that, it's like, it's hard to sort of, because, he's only had 1 game. But I looked at it and thought, you know what, at the start of this IPL, I wouldn't give you $500,000 for Jofra. I want him, but I wouldn't give you $500,000 for him. If the IPL's after the India Test series, and Jofra plays 3 or 4 Test matches in that series, I'd give you $10 million for him, because he'd be a different bowler. He'll have a different feel. He'll have a different level of confidence. He will be bowling at 90 to 93 mile an hour. He will have confidence of being able to rip down the side of it. His decision making will be better because he'll have more volume under him. So all that is. And that's why I keep on saying I'm not worried about him playing for England, and I really don't care about him IPL. I love the guy to bits. I want him to be playing cricket because of what he's gone through. But I think what you've got to. I've always said this about cricket is about feel, and fast bowling. I mean, it's not an exact science. It's not done by a robot. It's not a bowling machine where it just goes bang and there you are. I look at somewhere like Kigisa Rabada and Jasprit Bumrah, and you see their disciplines of variation and the way they can nail it. Jofra's every bit as good as them. I just think at this moment in time, because of the injuries and the layoffs he's had, I don't think he's executing them as well as he probably was before when he first burst onto the scene. And I think that's just down to we haven't rushed him back because everybody wants him, but he comes back into an environment where the ball's going everywhere, and all of a sudden his shoulders are slumping, and he's at it, and he looks as though he hasn't got a care in the world. He looks as though he's nice and laid back, the gold chain, the watch, everything. I tell you what, when you're a bowler in that situation and you're not as confident at letting go of the thing, no matter what you give off externally, internally, everything's going round in the head. Everything is. And I think that is, unfortunately, what's happening with Jofra. The more you bowl, the better you'll become. I just think a period in the summer with a red ball bowling for a while will be very good.
Let me just stop you, because is he going to be playing any red ball cricket? So one of we talk about we want to throw them back in, but it was Jofra who threw himself back in.
Oh yeah.
Right. Now, when Jofra's bowling for England, who has he got around him? From a bowling perspective, who's, as you expertly described, the process of coming back from injury and dealing with lack of confidence, as well as the technical and tactical side of bowling. Who's he got round him at Sussex? He would have James Kirtley. Right.
Yeah.
So who's he got at England?
Jimmy Anderson.
Right. So who's he got in the IPL?
It's a dog-eat-dog world. Nobody.
Well, he'll have a bowling coach.
You have a bowling coach, but the bowling coach is there. The bowling coach is in. I mean, the coaches in the IPL are not.
Who's Rajasthan's bowling coach?
So there's that, right?
Yeah.
So Jofra's chosen.
They're there for him.
Rightly or wrongly, right?
They're there for him. The coaches in the IPL, a lot are there for him. Kevin Peterson's not a technical coach; he's a coach of a batter.
So there's that side of things. The other thing is, you talk about increasing your workload, but he's bowling 4 overs every 4 days.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
3 or 4 days. Yeah.
So he's not really increasing his workload to a point where at the end of the IPO you're going to say, there's a guy that's ready to play Test cricket, is he?
No, but you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. He might have a red ball out there with him, and in between time, because of England's sort of rehabilitation back into the game, he might be bowling instead of in practice. He might be bowling 4 overs with a white ball, but he might be bowling another 5 or 6 overs with a red ball, just to get his volume up. We don't know that, and I expect that's happening. So we can't just say, oh, he's having a jolly, he's out in the IPL.
No, nobody's suggesting that the IPL is a jolly.
But
he didn't look like he was having a jolly in the first game.
From a 4 over point of view, I mean by that, he's just out there having 4 overs, having a good time, balls going everywhere. But I think I would imagine, knowing the ECB's bowling unit, Neil Killeen, who I was with last night, actually should have asked him. It wouldn't surprise me if Jofra's volume is up day by day by day. You see these lads now, we go on tour and we follow them. We were out in New Zealand, and you see them running around the field. We've seen them. Yeah,
we know that happens with England on England duty.
But you can't get away from it now. You've got these vests on.
Yeah, they get measured.
So you get measured everywhere. You get out of bed in the morning, you know how far you've gone. Every single minute of the day. So England will be monitoring that, and that wouldn't surprise me if Jofra's volume is getting more and more up. It'll be interesting to see how he gets into red ball cricket in the summer. And you were saying whether he plays red ball cricket or not.
Well, he won't have time to, will he? Because by the time the IPL's over, it'll be blast time.
He's centrally contracted. He'd be centrally contracted.
I know who the bowling coach is at Rajasthan. It's a man that bowled even faster than Jofra Archer, and was even more injured, sadly. Shane Bond.
I thought you were going to say Sean Tate, who also could have been, who also could have fitted that.
Could have been.
I mean, Shane Bond's probably a good person for him.
Yeah.
I mean, a good person and a really worrying person to have there and be like, you could have been great and you didn't quite do it. Just on the red ball thing, I actually think, having watched him now bowl in 5 or 6 games for England over a little while, and the IPL, I don't think he'll have as many issues in Test cricket. I think he could go back and still be really good at Test cricket. His issues look really white ball dependent at the moment. As I said, he just has no variation, and he doesn't have the same snap that when he just needs to. What Bumrah does, right? Well, Bumrah just whips his wrist down a little bit more,
confidence,
and can skid one through. And Jofra does the other.
To take us right back to the start, very simply, because the points Jarrod made are brilliant. Do you think insert the amount of time it takes for confidence and the body to heal, do you think that snap, the hyperextension, the ability to bowl that cutter in the way that we used to see, will that be back?
Yeah, the snap might not be back. The hyperextension snap might not be back, but I don't think that's going to affect the fact that he can bowl at 90 odd mile an hour. I think his confidence of letting go of the off cutter or the slower ball, the execution, I think that is suffering because he's in the cauldron of what is really, really difficult cricket, i.e. Champions Trophy, India away, and obviously the IPL. So that there, for me, is where he's at this moment in time. I think a longer period where he's bowling more volume I think that snap comes back, his confidence comes back, and he'll be back to terrorising people in, I think, middle of the summer. By the end of the summer, we might get Jofra 95% to where he was before he got injured. And we've got to remember, this kid has been out for 3 or 4 years, and nobody comes back like that in 3 or 4 years, especially a fast bowler.
One last question. If Jofra was to play one test match against India this summer, what ground would you want to see him play at?
First one. Sets a tone.
But no, forget setting the tone. I'm talking about the pitch.
Pitch. Oh, well, Leeds possibly first. To be fair,
Well, that is the first one, isn't it?
he takes the pitch. Sometimes he can take. Jofra can take the pitch out of the equation. So no matter what pitches you play on, the short ball was going to be really, really effective. And he's obviously the quick pierce through the air.
When he took the wickets at Leeds, he actually bowled a lot slower, didn't he, in using conditions? I kind of feel like you can get someone else to do that.
Yeah.
So you probably prefer him on one of the harder, flatter surfaces.
I expect him to play more than one test match.
Yeah.
I expect him to play more than one test match. I would have said Manchester of old, but Manchester's not the old Old Trafford that I played on. Where's the other ones? You've got Edgbaston. Edgbaston will be flat. It'll be flat. So that might be where you think, right, where we introduce him, and then we see how he goes. But if he's fit, he's got his volume up. I mean, first test match at Leeds, you set him away down the hill, and you really try and put India under pressure from the first test match. One thing I wouldn't like to see, because at this minute in time, I think what Jofra's doing, and something else that we sort of a technical thing that we've talked about, but a game situation which he's had over the course, and a point which I think is quite valid, over the course of the last however many months he's been back, the teams he's been playing have struggled for runs. So when you're struggling for runs as a fast bowler and a strike bowler, you then have to risk that little bit more. You have to go that little bit fuller because you need the wicket. You have to bowl that possibly a little bit shorter because you need the wicket.
I was also going to ask about the bowlers he's bowling with.
Yeah.
And also the batters. Like, he's gone up against, like, a bunch of Indian batters.
Absolutely.
He was in the Champions Trophy as well against good batting lineups, like, when he had to go up against Australia. And then he was at, Sunrisers that smashed him everywhere?
Yeah.
Like, okay, like at a certain point,
in Hyderabad as well.
I would like to see him against some of the lesser batting lineups. And again, as you said, it's like he's been dropped back in, and maybe it's slightly different if we see him.
Just don't want him to play catch up in the summer. So if you're going to get him ready for the first test.
You said you wanted him playing for Horsham. Is that right?
No. We're talking about the
I'm
ideal.
saying there's a lot of people around the Horsham area who play club cricket who are like,
no thanks.
No, Jofra. I don't care if his elbow is 7% worse than it used to be or 80% worse.
But in bygone years, you would have your rehabilitation at the game would have gone slowly. But because it's Jofra Archer, Mark Wood's exactly the same.
Yeah, that's
bang.
And that's what I was saying before about Unwritten Kia and Lockie Ferguson. And I actually think the future of the IPL is having like 3 fast bowlers on your list and just going, whoever's physically healthy plays, and the other 2 would just hope that they get healthy if this guy gets injured.
We'll get them healthy.
Yeah.
But I don't want him to play catch up.
Yeah.
No, that's the big point. Don't play catch up. If you can get him ready for the first test, play him and get him ready for play the first test. Because if you lose the first test, then he comes back in, and there's even more pressure. The great saviour's back, Jofra, and then he's under pressure himself. He puts himself under pressure. England put him under pressure. If we can get him ready for the first test match and he can go out there and set the tone, and whatever England win or lose, our best team is out there, and I think that would be really, really important for Jofra to kick on for the summer.
Okay, plenty more to discuss on the show. You're listening or joining us on Following On. Coming up after the break, we're going to talk about how do you overthrow the ICC.